leaps and bounds. So if I had my homie, then the heads can kill. Got arrested dressing back with a beanie poo low. 86 from the club, the homies throw a blow. Always starting drama, can't take us anywhere. Homegirl, drug your punk bitch out by the head. No stepping on my flow, puro Hollywood green. Mopping with Osito from the suit 13.
What's up, YouTube? This week there really wasn't anything major going on in the news again. All that I saw was the whole presidential visit to the UK, and they tried, the liberal media trying to claim that there was no crowds for the president, that it was all a bunch of anti-protesters against the president visiting the UK, which was falsely claimed. They've proven that already by the videos they showed of those that were actually happy that the president came and visited them. So that whole crap that there are more protesters in the UK against the president is false. But anyways, it's just another reason for the far left to try to brainwash people into believing their ridiculous lies and rhetoric. But moving past that, let's go ahead and get on with your B-rated movie reviews, or classic reviews. So Movieholics, we got 3 older sci-fi flicks to review this week. A couple of these I never even heard of, and I just came across them, and I was like, okay, I'll check that out, see what that's like. The first one is known as The Aftermath, or sometimes it's called over in the UK, I believe it's called The Zombie Aftermath. It was done in 1982. It was a little splotchy watching this film because it was low budget, but at the same time the story was decent, but it didn't really have like really very good special effects at all. It starred a guy named Steve Barquette. I've never heard of him, didn't even know who he was. Same with the female lead, Lynn Margulies. I don't know who that is, never heard of her. The only one that everyone should recognize on this film, and it's one of his very first roles, is Sid Haig, or Haig, however you want to pronounce that. You'll recognize him from a lot of your Rob Zombie flicks. He's in a few of them, like A House of a Thousand Corpses or whatever it is, and Devil's Rejects. He's in both of those movies. He's the bald guy with the beard. That's Sid Haig. He plays a bad guy. He's basically the leader of a gang, is what it is, and he's kind of a dick. But basically the movie rolls around Steve Barquette and a couple other astronauts. They're up in space when there's a nuclear holocaust that happens on Earth. People just kind of blow the shit out of each other. I can't remember. I don't think they're woken up from a sleep or something like that. It's just, I don't know. They make it seem like time's gone by a little bit differently in space. and they think they need to go home, find out what's going on, because they can't contact Houston. So they feel like something's wrong. They're not getting any radio signals from Earth at all whatsoever, from anywhere. So they think something's really gone wrong. So they decide that they're going to go back. And it makes it a little harder for re-entry because they don't have Houston talking to him, trying to lead him down. So naturally, they kind of crash land. Only 2 of them survive the crash. And when they get there, they find mutants at first, and a wasteland. Everything's been blown to shreds. And they notice that they can't find any survivors, people or whatever, until they run across this group of this sort of gang members or whatever. And this gang, they're threatening these women and this boy, which the main guy, Steve Barquette, he tries to protect and kind of raise him on his own. There was a caretaker who was taking care of the boy, and he dies. He leaves Steve Barquette to take care of him. So Steve decides he's going to take care of this boy, and when they run across this gang that's bothering these women and this other little girl, they kill all of them off except for the boy. And he kind of his buddy, his other astronaut buddy, they kill him too, because they were all trying to save the women and that little girl, but it didn't work out too well. And at the end, the Sid, his character, he kills the main character, Steve, off. And then the boy, he turns around and kills Sid. And he's left on his own. That's the end of the movie. He's the last one left. And he just kind of walks off down this road into nowhere. So it was kind of a strange movie. The story was a little off for me. It was really hard to follow. It just seemed like they just threw a couple. The gang looked like a bunch of hippies from the 70s, and they just kind of threw a bunch of weird elements into this movie. Tried to do a post-apocalyptic type scenario, and it just didn't work. It was kind of off. I'm not even sure if this had a box office number or not, but it wasn't really that great of a movie. I made it through the whole movie, so the acting wasn't too horrible. But as far as creativity and everything, I think this one kind of, I don't know, it was almost flat. It wasn't really that great of a movie. The next one is called The Wraith. This is a classic from the 1980s. The movie was done in '86. It really didn't do that well at the box office. They had a budget of like $2 million. They made like $3 million domestically. That's in the U.S. It only made about $3 million, so it really didn't do all that great. However, as the years have gone by, it has now become a cult classic. This movie, the 2 main actors that you'll recognize in this movie is Charlie Sheen. He starred in it. And then you have Randy Quaid. He wasn't really a main character. Per se, he was more of a, you saw him every now and then. He was a sheriff investigating the murders or whatever that was going on in the movie. Basically, this was the Wraith is basically what it is. It's a Wraith. It's uh, a ghost bent on vengeance, basically, or a spirit bent on vengeance. However, the way they did the spirit was really kind of weird. It was strange. Charlie Sheen is actually the spirit of a dead guy that, you know, basically there's a gang of guys. There's like 5 or 6 of them. They're like racers. They race people for their cars. Anyway, apparently there's a girl in the movie that, you know, the main leader of the gang wanted as his girlfriend. So they killed the guy she was dating at the time, and then they covered it up, and so no one would know about it. And basically, Charlie Sheen comes back as his spirit. He doesn't even look like the original guy. And he comes back for vengeance. When he does it, though, he gets this weird-ass phantom car to do it, so he could race him. And, you know, literally towards the end of the movie, it shows it's like a Dodge or whatever. Some type of Dodge. But when Charlie Sheen's the Wraith, he's wearing this black leather suit with a helmet on, with a visor, so you can't tell who's driving the car. And he's got these weird metal frames with tubes all, you know, kind of like with his. They almost look like bracers for legs and arms. It's really weird looking. But every time he kills someone, he'll drop or you know, race one of the gang members and kills them. It drops one of these pieces off, and then it disappears like it's part of the. Like these bracers have some kind of significance for each member, which don't make any sense. I don't understand. It doesn't clue you in on why, you know, a bracer is disappearing every time he kills one of these members, gang members. It don't make no sense. The movie was all right. You'll probably recognize a few of the other actors in it. The acting wasn't horrible. The acting wasn't terrible. It wasn't all that great either. The story was a little off, in my opinion. It wasn't a horrible story, but at the same time, I think they could have done better with it. It wasn't all that great of an 80s flick to me. I think it would have been a lot better. Now, I have an older brother, and he thinks this movie's the shit. And I just don't. It didn't come off that way for me. It was okay. It was mediocre for an 80s flick. But if you're into that, it's right on the fine edge of a sci-fi and a horror flick. I didn't think it was scary at all. It wasn't done as to me, it wasn't done as a horror flick. It was more of a sci-fi flick. But anyways, basically he comes back, he kills off the gang, and at the very end, he rides off with the girl. And he tells her who he really is, and they leave. Now, he also has a younger brother throughout the whole movie who runs like this burger joint or whatever. He doesn't ever really talk to him, per se, but the brother, like he tells him who he is towards the end of the movie. He doesn't really tell him who he is, But the brother picks up on it. The younger brother picks up on it, but he takes off without telling him who he is, and leaves in the car. And you know, Charlie Sheen, he'd been riding around on this motorcycle, and he takes the girl, and they leave, and that's the end of the movie. Like I said, it was okay, but it wasn't really, to me, it didn't stand out enough to be what I consider a cult classic, but many people do. So that's just my opinion. Moving on to the last one. The last one is called A Strange New World. It was basically a TV pilot done in 1975, and it starred John Saxon. Was a well-known actor back then, really popular, and he did a lot of B-rated, but he did a lot of A-rated, A-listed movies too. You might know him best from doing Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. But it also starred Kathleen Miller and King Curtis. They were all three the main stars of the flick. Basically, Strange New World was the third attempt to get an idea done by Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek. He trying to get a series started with a guy, basically someone is in sleep hibernation and then wakes up in the future and everything after a apocalyptic event, and hundreds of years in the future, and everything's kind of changed. The first two, one was called Genesis 2, which I'd seen before, and it was awful. It was a terrible movie, even though it was made for TV. It was bad. I don't even see how it says, that all three of these were supposed to be a pilot, but I don't understand how they could go off Genesis 2, because there was just nothing in it to lead to do more of like a weekly series. I don't know how they would have pulled that one off. It was really bad. I didn't like it at all. I haven't seen Planet Earth yet. I'll eventually get to that one. But I watched this one. This one's considered the worst of them, but I completely disagree. I haven't seen Planet Earth, so I couldn't tell you yet about Planet Earth. But I know Genesis 2 was absolutely way worse than this one was. This one I could actually see becoming a series. It basically has... They're basically like three astronauts that's been suspended in hibernation through, cryogenics. It's kind of funny. You hear the Star Trek sounds at the beginning of the pilot or the movie. They're easily recognized, but they're all sleeping. And John Saxon, who's playing Captain so-and-so, is giving his narration of what's going on. Apparently there's this group called the PAX, who are basically some type of organization. They want to bring law and order and peace and unify the earth. It really doesn't describe an opposition. So basically, the PAX, which John and the other two are part of that organization, they cryogenize these three up into a space station. for whatever reason. They put them up there so that, like, in so much time they come back down. You know, hopefully the goal has been met, I guess. I don't know what the real reason for them going up there. But they're supposed to come back down to PAX headquarters and awaken those in headquarters. I guess they felt that there was a nuclear holocaust coming, so they planned ahead, is from what I get of it. Because that's basically what happened. So they were in orbit for hundreds of years or whatever. It really doesn't specify how many years. I think it was like 200 after the Holocaust. They get a signal that wakes them up and to go back to Earth and awaken those that are underground in the headquarters out of their cryogenesis. So they hop in a shuttle and they go down to Earth. And apparently they were looking around for months in the desert. They're running out of water and other kind of supplies, and all they have is this vehicle. There's kind of like a not really a tank, but it runs like a tank, sort of like a truck and tank, kind of like a half track. They're running around, and they run into a group of people who have taken over like an old city park. And the only reason they run into them while they're basically looking for this signal that's supposed to be coming from PAX headquarters. They're not sure exactly where they're going because the landscape has changed so much. They can't figure out where exactly they're headed, which makes no sense to me. You know, if you have coordinates and everything, they should be able to go straight there. So I don't know why they're having a hard time trying to find where PAX headquarters is at. But anyway, they're following a particular signal that they're picking up on. And they run into these people who've taken over the park area, an old park. And they're fighting another group who's more or less chaotic. They're tribal. It's like two tribes fighting it out. One's more peaceful, but they're really strict in their laws or whatever. They follow an old law system out of some book that don't make a whole lot of sense, and it's a little off. But anyway, they end up helping this group fight off this other group that are more animalistic and tribal in nature, and tell them they need to try to find a way to coexist, to trade with each other, and blah blah blah. Well, they tell them of another tribe that they know of that seems a little more intelligent as far as scientifically or more scientifically or technologically advanced. They tell them of this particular tribe that they know of, which is farther away from them. So they decide to head off that direction and see what this other tribe is about, and maybe they could help them out trying to find this signal they're picking up. Well, they find the signal that they're picking up on, it knocks them out, and they end up in this I don't know what you would call it. It's like a covenant with that, or a cult, sort of. There's this doctor who's like the head leader of the group, and he's got machines and stuff, and he's doing advanced medical practice type of stuff on these people. And they find out, you know, John ends up hitting one of them, and it kills him. And then all of a sudden he's back alive, and they're like, "What the heck?" Well, come to find out, they're all clones, and they're harvesting, which, this isn't a new concept, but maybe back then it was, but not now. They've done it before in movies where they're cloning people and harvesting their organs to keep themselves alive. He wants to create a couple new clones because the blood supply is, they're eventually, because they've been cloning so much, they're going to end up dying out. So he wants to bring in new blood. The main doctor, he's been alive for hundreds of years, and he's about done. He's about had it. He wants to turn over the group over to the doctor of their group, which is King Curtis, and have him take it over. But at the same time, he wants to take out all the blood out of John and Kathleen and make new clones out of them so they keep their race alive. Well, they don't end up doing that. They end up basically, I don't know how all the clones are connected to each other, but somehow they're connected to each other. And when they killed off one of them, they end up killing all of them off. And they basically, that's what they end up doing, is they end up killing them all. And then they leave. They get out. And that's basically the end of the movie. It shows them driving off into the unknown. I could see where they could go with this and making it into a series of them constantly running into survivors on Earth, little groups or tribes like that, and having to, maybe some of them are far advanced and maybe some of them are not, or they could have done something kind of like the video game Warzone 2100, where they kind of start making their own group, picking up people or whatever, and then building their own little society and collecting old technology and stuff, and them having to face off other groups that are kind of doing the same thing. So I could have seen where this could have gone. This had a lot of potential to becoming a great series, but apparently they didn't go that way. I don't see how it's considered the worst of the three, but I'll have to watch Planet Earth to figure that out, find out what's going on there, and see how well that did. Until then, if these are your forte, I say go ahead, watch it. It's something interesting. It's kind of neat, even though it's just an old cheesy TV pilot. It's not that bad, acting wise, for sure. Of course, you have to get past some of the cheesy like outfits and designs and special effects, but otherwise the storyline was actually fairly good. This is the best of the three this week, I think, that I watched. And like I always say, if you guys have any suggestions, or you can think of a classic or B-rated movie I might have missed, and you want me to review it, then leave a comment down below in the comment section. Let me know about it, and I'll check it out when I can. Until then, I told you you'd be told the truth, and you've just been told.